Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down. I've talked about movies in 2023. I've watched a couple movies so far in 2023, but I'm yet to watch or talk about any movies that have actually debuted in 2023 until this one. I've finally seen my first movie of the year, and a lot of you are going to be like, C-Man, I didn't see you do it fresh out of the theater. It was rainy and it was cold, and I just wanted to get home, and then I passed out. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. We'll sit down and we'll do a real review. We'll do a non-spoiler because this movie deserves it. I was pumped to see this. I joked with my friends that if you follow me over on Letterboxd, Letterboxd, it's an app that allows you to create lists with movie and television. So I have like my MCU, my DC stuff, but then I do my yearly rankings on there. I did it last year for the first time, and it was awesome. I was joking, like this movie, because it's the first one I'm seeing, it'll be number one for at least a little while. Potentially up until February 3rd when Knock at the Cabin comes out. If you want to see my trailer reaction for that, you can see it right up there. If not Knock at the Cabin, Quantumania is going to knock it out of the list unless it goes super sideways. Being a comic book nerd and a big Jonathan Majors fan and a big Paul Rudd fan, like that movie's gonna be number one for probably the longest run. But this movie, I think could be better than Knock at the Cabin for sure, and it's got to hang around the top 10 for a little while. I was thoroughly impressed. My theater had a ball. I had a ball with this movie, and then I got out and I was looking at scores and things, and critics and audiences are having a ball with this movie. And as a horror fan, that just makes me smile. So why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into M3GAN. And yeah, dude, I am not joking around. The critics are not joking around. The audiences are not joking around. M3GAN is a really good movie. Now, you're gonna get haters on this thing because it's a PG-13 slasher. And there's a pretty loud contingent of people in the social media realm that feel all horror, specifically slashers, need to be rated R. And if you're doing PG-13 slashers, you're just pandering to different people that you're trying to pull in. And to those people, I would like to kindly tell you to go fuck off. I don't drop the F-bomb on this channel very often, but people that are talking that kind of smack specifically about that movie don't get it, and honestly shouldn't be talking at all. Because you need movies like this. I am a diehard horror fan because I started watching horror movies when I was a kid. And if you continue to turn out R-rated, extremely gory, not as sexualized. Horror used to be sexualized a lot more back in the day. But, I mean, if you're doing any of these adult-type themes, you can't pull in a younger generation. And you could argue that this is kind of a horror movie maybe for, like, the TikTok generation. You got that viral dance that already kind of has gone viral that people are doing on TikTok. There are things in this movie that are very clearly speaking to a younger generation. And that's something that the horror community needs. You need to be able to pull in younger audiences to build your horror fan base. And I don't care. You can try to be as old school or fickle in your ways of horror as you want. But the fact of the matter is horror is evolving, right? Like, whether it's PG-13 or R, we're getting horror that's taking a look at really legitimate... Like, horror back in the day used to be like, how can I make you scare? Let's make a jump. We'll do a ghost story. Oh, we'll do a slasher. Horror's taking on, like, legit Oscar-worthy... like topics of like subject matter. I mean, this is another movie that deals with loss, and particularly how you deal with a young kid, and loss. And there are some really, really wonderful like takeaways from this movie, just on a general term. And for me, I would say it's another one of these horror movies that's taking a look at real world issues, and specifically real-world issues that affect a lot of young people. So to have a PG-13 horror movie that those young people could go watch and get excited about and be introduced to the realm of horror and horror movies and slashers, you need stuff like this. Now, the other argument that I've kind of seen out there is like, well, you know, there's a lot of stupid stuff in this movie. Again, to these people, I tell you, you're not getting it. This is a dark comedy slasher flick. So yes, if you watch this movie like a serious slasher movie, I think you'll probably find issues with it. From my own perspective, I can tell you that there are some issues with it from that perspective. I mean, we've seen AI. We live in 2023. AI, movies about AI becoming evil, they're out there. And some of the decisions that Allison Williams' character, let me get her name, Gemma, who's kind of our lead and responsible for building M3GAN, completely just blows right by. Like, completely just over, like, you just sit there and you go, why would you do that? And if you took this seriously, yeah, I could maybe see why you might not like it. But again, this is a slasher comedy. And the things that I find stupid or silly in the movie, I actually find to be there on purpose. And it's something that the movie leans into. And when those moments hit, is really laugh out loud funny. Like, my audience laughed a lot in this movie, specifically around some of the more outrageous moments. And it's the thing for me that really makes this movie work. And Akilah Cooper, if you are not familiar with this woman, James Wan brought her on for *Malignant*, brought her on and worked with her on story for this. And she comes, at least in the world of horror, she's done a lot of TV episodes over the years, but Hellfest was one of the first things that I had seen come from her in the realm of horror, like in the movies, that I really enjoyed. Like I said, really enjoyed *Malignant* 2 years ago. And this is another one where it's like, you can just see Akilah Cooper is someone who, in the realm of horror, is showing you that she can navigate any way you want her to go. Specifically when she teams up with James Wan. James Wan is a master at crafting story concepts, and you'll see, like, story by James Wan on a lot of the horror movies and a lot of the ones that he produces. The fact of the matter is James Wan is a writer. I think has mostly had his run. He'll still write some stuff, but I could see him leaning on Akilah Cooper for other movies that he might want to direct or do. But it's one of those things where, you know, you'll see him dive in and get on the script and do the writing, but he's producing and managing a lot of different franchises and pieces of franchises. So you'll see story by James Wan a lot. And one of the things I've always loved about Wan is the way that he uses his people consistently and starts to help elevate them. Look at David F. Sandberg. He's about to drop a second superhero movie, and he started out working with James Wan. And I think you're going to start to see that with Akilah Cooper. Like, you're going to see Wan put her in positions, and between this and *Malignant*, she shows you she can play the two opposites in the realm of horror. Like, she can play that hard R, and she can play that PG-13 realm, and she can play with humorous moments. There are and she can play with ridiculous in two different ways. You look at *Malignant*, there are ridiculous things in there that'll make you laugh, but a lot of the ridiculousness of that movie leans into the horror. Here, the ridiculous things in the movie lean into the comedy. And being able to juggle that, that's one of those things where horror has always been best when there's some kind of comedy. You need something to cut tension. And Cooper is showing you really, really well that she can juggle both. But the thing here that's really popping for me, like I said, is balancing this family drama inside of this one. And what you give Allison Williams' Gemma, as well as her niece, Katie, played by Violet McGraw, like, there's some really serious, legitimate undertones about loss and grief. And, you know, you guys know me. I've been dealing with grief in a big way the last year. And that, you know, those things in the movie, while they're not always front and center, they really end up hitting, specifically by the time you get to the end. And when you look at everything else that Cooper crafts, she crafts a wonderful slasher. And specifically a AI doll slasher. And yes, there's not a lot of blood. There's not actually a lot of killing. There was a moment toward the end of the movie where I was like, all right, M3GAN's about to go off. And she does a little bit, but it's kind of held back and it's restrained. And it's one of those, like, you're watching, you gotta go, oh yeah, it's a PG-13 movie. And that'd be the only time I'd think about it. In no way did it ever deter. And like I said, the comedy in this, the silly moments in this, the things that make you laugh are really, really well executed. And when you add in director Gerard Johnstone, who I'm not familiar with, this is really one of the first things I've ever seen him do. I really like how he carries this movie behind the camera. I think he elevates and puts M3GAN in a lot of wonderful positions. He hits the things that you gotta hit, right? Like, every slasher, you gotta do specific things that you kind of need to be there to create that feel. But where, you know, Johnstone is able to put the camera at different times, how he moves through some of the action sequences with M3GAN, and where he places her, right, when she's not on. And what's going on, like, just the little things, right? Like, they're just, specifically with her, you watch just like the little things with her and the stuff that comes specifically in the visual effects and the makeup and the costume designs. Like, that's a little girl in reality. A little 12-year-old New Zealand girl by the name of Amy Donald, who absolutely crushes the physical performance. But you know, it's one of these things where, like, visually, I think what the makeup team does and where John Stone, like I said, puts the camera and how he moves you through this movie, you're never bored. It's always moving. And like I said, it knows how to lean into the silliness so that you get really, really funny moments. But at the same time, when the horror is going down and Megan is going off, like, she is legitimately scary. Like, I've seen people throwing out, like, oh man, Chucky, look out. And like, yo, I don't know if I'd throw that yet. Like, respect to the greatest doll murderer of all time. But Megan is on a scary level that could compete with someone like Chucky. Like, she's that kind of scary, even though there's not a lot of blood and gore in the movie. And I really think that John Stone and Cooper do a good job of building that while also making you really, really care about this family. And that's where your performances come in. Allison Williams is wonderful here. Like I said, her character, Gemma, really misses the boat on some things where you're like, you're a genius. How do you miss these things? But when you need them to be there for the movie to work and you lean into it, it really does create some wonderful comedic moments, and Allison Williams is quite good in those. She's also fantastic opposite Violet McGraw, who plays her niece, who I think is like maybe 9 or 10. I mean, you got two legit like little kid actors in this movie, and Violet McGraw pops. One, like I said, the chemistry with Allison Williams, there's a lot of uncomfortableness there because Allison Williams is her aunt. She's someone who is very, very obviously technologically driven. She works at this big toy company, and created like a Furby type character that has a lot of AI and things so that you can gather data and do stuff to lead to something like this. So genius level, not equipped for kids. And how you get to Megan is like, she needs help raising this kid, and Megan becomes that kind of step in, which is where some of the really crazy ideas pop up that would make some people go, this is stupid, but they lean into it on purpose and make it comedic. And the stuff around that really does work. But when you get to the end of the movie, there is a legit connection between Katie and Gemma, and the chemistry on the like family and like intimate side, right? Like, you do get a kind of daughter-mother vibe between the two of them by the end. And that chemistry really is one of the things that makes this movie really work. But the other thing are these two little girls. Violet McGraw and Amy Donald are just spectacular. Both of them do phenomenal work. I like the amount of times I sit there and go, I can't believe it's a little girl in a costume. And that this little girl, Amy Donald, is doing all of this physical stuff. Like, I'm sure she probably had some stunt doubles for some things, but the way that John Stone, like I said, moves the camera and does different things, it's Donald, I think, inside of the mask most of the time. And I don't know where you're going to get too many doubles that aren't other kids, because just body makeup, like as soon as you see her and you know that it's a little girl, you're like, oh yeah, that is a little girl. But she's phenomenal from the physical performance. Jenna Davis voices Megan, and the combination of the two create a lot of really good chemistry with Violet McGraw, and you can understand why this girl is so attached to this doll and why she cares so much that even when the doll is doing things that aren't okay, she doesn't really like miss it until things start to dial up and, you know, the story drives her and Gemma together. And Violet McGraw is very, very talented, and she carries this movie just as much as Williams does, and I think she juggles the emotional things really well. And like I said, Amy Donald and Jenna Davis bring Megan to life fantastically. I mean, whether it's that dance sequence, which is, even though it's short, it's one of the best moments in the movie for that for her, and just like how she goes about killing people and doing things, it just all really works, especially inside of this PG-13 construct that they've created. And the other big standout for me in this movie is Ronnie Chang. He is laugh out loud hysterical. He plays kind of like the boss, or he plays Gemma's, not kind of, he plays Gemma's boss. He basically runs this company, at least inside of the company, right? He's got like his people that he reports to. But anything that he is doing is hysterical. His energy is fantastic and really does add to the comedic side of this movie. David is a character that will create a lot of laughs just because of the way that he reacts to things. And watching Ronnie Chang do that, like his reactions to things sometimes are just priceless. But I think you have a really good cast even around that part of it. Like the rest of the people that show up or pop in, all wonderful, play their parts. You got a really crotchety neighbor played by Laurie Dungy. that plays into different things well and sets things up for M3GAN quite well. And like I said, this does all the things you would look for in a slasher, but brings a lot of comedy. And even though it's not rated R and it's not gory, it's still scary. Like, I mean, M3GAN is a scary doll, man. Like, visually, she's kind of creepy. And then what she does, like, you got to be scared of her. And I love that all that stuff is present. And this is just one of those horror movies for me where your cast, your crew, your director, your writer, your set design, your visual effects, your makeup, your score here is really solid. Again, classic slasher stuff, and drives things in the right way to balance all the different tones and things you're doing. And just how M3GAN works, how she evolves, how she adapts, hits all of those notes, and it presents some really fun things. The finale of this movie is probably my favorite stretch. And it's just the things that Johnstone and Cooper build and put on camera where you're like, oh, this is so much freaking fun. And that's the biggest thing for me with M3GAN, is M3GAN is a lot of fun. If you want to have a good time at the theater, go out and check this. And because it's a PG-13 movie, you can take your parents. My mom's not a big horror person, but I think she would probably watch this when it goes to streaming on Peacock. But I'm telling you, if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of these doll scary movies, if you're a fan of slashers, fan of comedy, this movie kind of checks all those boxes. So let's get the C-Maniacs up. It's going to get a good score. It's going to get a high score. This movie's going to be in my top 10. I'm telling you, for a while. It's gonna, like, I'll see more than 10 movies, and this movie's going to still be at the top because it's funny, it's scary, it has really, really nice values and like takeaways from the movie inside of the context of grief and how you deal with loss, specifically with a young child. And like all of that stuff really works. And when you put it on screen, it looks great, it plays great, it moves. The movie has fun. It has fun with itself, which allows the audience to have fun, and it allows the actors to have fun. And all the actors here are a ball. So I told myself I was going to be more critical in 2023. Part of me wants to go back and like re-rank all of the movies since I started ranking them. But I just, like, I sit here and I just go, the only real issue I had with the movie is I wanted more. And even if they're PG-13 deaths, like, I just wanted to see M3GAN set up more things. So I'm going to go for... My gut wants to put the half on it, but I'm going to try to be more critical this year. So I'm going to go 4. I'm going to go 4 out of 5. I think this is just an excellent movie. Like I said, if you're looking at Akilah Cooper, what she did with *Malignant*, this is like the polar opposite, but at the same time, like, symbiotic. Like, you can tell it comes from the same person. I think it really highlights what she can do on the page. Gerard Johnstone, not someone I was familiar with. Really enjoyed what he put together here. And ultimately, I think M3GAN as a character is fantastic. I would love to see another movie. I want more installments in the franchise. I think it sets itself up to do those things. And yeah, performances, everything here is just awesome. And it's a fun time at the movies, and I love a fun time at the movies. So 4 out of 5 for me. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to turn it over to you. I want to know what you're thinking. Did you go see M3GAN this past weekend? Is it on your to-do list? Were you surprised how many people are saying really good things about this movie? Like, for me, I figured this was going to be like a mid-tier like slasher movie that would be elevated because it's coming from Cooper and Wan. And I got a lot more than that. So that happened for you. What was your standout? What moments were your favorite? Like I said, the dance sequence is probably the best stretch for M3GAN. Everything that's going on in the finale at the place, like at the actual company, is great stuff. But the finale itself, like at the very end, excellent stuff. This is a really strong third act. So that hit for you. What'd you think of Amy Donald's physical performance as M3GAN? What'd you think of Jenna Davis's voice performance? Like I said, I think the two together create a really awesome character. What'd you think of Violet McGraw, Allison Williams, Ronnie Chang? Anything you got here, man. Good, bad, indifferent on M3GAN. I want it down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer reactions, you want to be here to see what movies compete with M3GAN for the top of my 2023 as we start our early run in the year. You haven't yet, you want to show a little love and support, well, hey, come join C-Maniac Nation. It's super easy. All you gotta do is jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got 2 video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those C-Man goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there, and I'll catch you on the next one.